Tiger fans, what's going on? Thanks for joining me, Louisiana Boo Crew Media. Boo Crew Media, what a day it is, huh? What a great Sunday, November 30th, 2025. We will remember this day for quite some time because it seems like it's officially getting pretty official that Lane Kiffin is going to be the next head football coach at LSU. I mean, that is just really insane to say. God, it's a lot of fun to say. I'm not going to lie. It's been a wild past couple weeks. It was everything that we had kind of been hearing about 2 weeks ago. The rumors of Kiffin and his family, getting a tour of Gainesville, getting a tour of Oxford. Of Baton Rouge, and it's just been all hell has broken loose over the past 2 weeks. We've been looking for sources, we've been looking for nuggets, we've been looking for anything that we can get over here. But I do know that all of the reputable sources are now in conjunction. They are in agreement that Lane Kiffin, not Les Miles, but what a slip that is. Lane Kiffin will be the next head coach at LSU after leaving Ole Miss 6 years, 4 10-win seasons. I think Ole Miss has had 11 10-win seasons in their history, and he had 4 of them. And so just remarkable what he's done in a short period of time in Oxford. And it just made sense to go after him as the Tigers were really reeling, particularly in the PR world after firing Brian Kelly, and then the debacle with Scott Woodward, and then what was going on with Verge Osbury. Roos was taken in as the president. It's just been a chaotic, not a great looking scene for LSU over the past couple weeks. But this is big time. This is about as big as it gets. Verge Osbury, give credit where credit is due. The man went out there and he said, excuse me, we're going to go out and hire the best football coach in college football. And I think a lot of us were like, okay, well, who would that be? You're going to go get Kirby Smart, or, it's not going to be anybody like that. But in terms of who was available, who was actually a possibility for LSU to go get, it was Lane Kiffin. And you heard rumblings that he may be dissatisfied in Oxford. I know he's complained a lot about the crowds, a lot of sarcastic remarks to the students about when they show up, when they don't show up. Lane's been looking to make a move to a bigger school for quite some time, and LSU's always been the apple of his eye. I think there was a lot of flirting going along in 2021, but the timing just wasn't right. Lane was still a little bit of a hot case, and LSU was at the time looking for a little bit more stability coming off the Orgeron era. And, look, give credit where credit is due. Brian Kelly, he came in, he stabilized the program. He didn't take it to the next level, but he definitely got it better than how Orgeron left it. And so now here we are. LSU couldn't be in a better spot. It was finally that time to go and take that big swing, go get that big fish. And this is definitely the biggest hire in LSU history. I think a lot of people probably would have said that Kelly would have been just off of his resume at being the winningest coach at Notre Dame, and just the success he had at different stops like Cincinnati. And, but this is really, really big time. Saban, he was a little bit of an unknown. Les Miles was a little bit of an unknown. Everybody knows the story about Interim Eddie getting the job with that binder and old Panansky. And so there's been books written about that, but this is about as big as it gets. I think just breaking it down kind of from like a 10,000 feet level, I think even though LSU's always gotten a ton of great publicity, the brand could not be stronger, not just nationally, but internationally. But I think that there's always been a sentiment that LSU with the right coach would be an absolute juggernaut. And so I think that's been the sentiment nationally over the past couple of days, is to kind of feel sorry for Ole Miss, big bad LSU with Lane Kiffin. And, look, hey, LSU maybe becoming the bad guy here soon. I think Lane sees what Kirby has at Georgia, just the machine that he has rolling. He saw firsthand for 3 years what Saban was doing at Alabama. And I think that he realized that if he wanted to do similar things, that he needed to go to a program that was going to compete resource wise, that was going to compete money wise, was going to compete talent wise. And that's LSU. And you even heard Saban yesterday saying on game day that really the the decision is boiling down to, it's not money. Money's not has nothing to do with this personally. It's about how can you recruit the best talent, how can you build the best roster year in and year out? Because with the transfer portal, everyone's coming and going. And so I think that takes the sting off of this move by Lane Kiffin too, as well, is that, a few years back before the transfer portal and you had to sit out a year and there wasn't no NIL. And I mean, the players really got screwed here, but now the players can go wherever they want. They can pick up and leave at any moment. And so I think Lane was seeing that more on a generational level, that these kids understand that they're not tied down. They're not tied down to a coach. They're not tied down to a university. And so why should the coach be at a certain point? And so really gotten juicy here over the past 24 hours, particularly with the meeting that was supposed to take place at about 9:00 this morning, but then several reports came out that the meeting was being pushed back till 1. But now it just certainly seems like the meeting was really just about kind of getting a, excuse me, getting a taste for who's staying and who's going on the staff. And it sounds like Lane's given an ultimatum that particularly on the offensive side of the ball, that if you want to come to LSU, you better be on that plane today. And if you don't, then so be it. And so it's just, it's chaotic. I can't imagine the Ole Miss side of this is probably not enjoying this like the Tiger side of it is. But, look, that's football. That's business. And Lane's 50 years old. I know that that's young, particularly in coaching circles, but he's been around a long time. He's been in the public eye for well over 20 years, ever since he was with Pete Carroll at USC. And I think that this is his time to make his mark, to go somewhere where he knows he's going to be there for the next 10 years and hopefully go and win a couple national championships. I think somebody said it beautifully yesterday or the day before, and I don't want to take credit for it, but it was very well said. And I think that the way that you look at it and the way Lane looks at it is that the ceiling at Ole Miss is LSU's expectation. And so as great of a season as Ole Miss is having this year, even if they were to go deep, possibly win it all, this is about as good as it's going to get for that program. Like I said, winning a season in school history, and that's a rich, long tradition at Ole Miss. So that's saying quite something. But Lane Kiffin has really rebuilt himself. He's rebuilt his image. He definitely did not have the best reputation after leaving everything that happened with Al Davis and the Raiders, going to Tennessee, leaving it early, not even a year into it, going back to USC, getting fired on the tarmac, and then going back to Alabama, coaching offense, the play caller under Saban, and then to Florida Atlantic, over to Ole Miss. And, Lane, excuse me, he's talked about his struggles and that he's had his problems over the past few years, and that the best few years have been the best years of his life. And he's gotten healthy. He's gotten where he needs to be mentally and physically. And so I just don't think that this could be any better. Timing's perfect and everything. Timing is everything, right, in life. And it really couldn't be any more so than in this case. Right now we're hearing there will be a press conference tomorrow. Yes, last night it was reported that two LSU planes had been flown up to Oxford to get the Kiffins. And I think with that 1:00 meeting, it sounded like Kiffin wasn't even necessarily going to be there, because that was a crossover with the time that he would be traveling. And so all hands on deck. He's a Tiger. It sounds like it's going to be if not the biggest salary in college football, probably right around what Kirby's making in the 13-14 range. The numbers we're hearing are 7 years, $90 million. And so that's just the going rate for a coach. I mean, just 4 years ago, it was amazing that we were throwing Brian Kelly 9-10 million a year. But now here we are 4 years later, and we're talking about 13, 14, maybe even 15 million a month. And so, look, what it all boils down to is that Lane Kiffin, he needs the horses. And excuse me, y'all. He needs the horses. He cannot do that at Ole Miss. He's consistently turning over his roster with the transfer portal. Even though you're getting the best talent out there, obviously you know that that's not a sustainable method. As Nick Saban would say, that's a dangerous way to live. I think LSU really reflects the ability to still get in there, recruit the high school ranks, definitely on the offensive and defensive lines. And then we know the skill talent that Louisiana produces, particularly at running back and wide receiver. And just to think about what Kiffin could do with those kind of cats, as long as he goes and gets his quarterback every year. I mean, look at what he did with Trinidad Chambliss this year. I mean, a D2 prospect, not a lot of offers, nobody really paying any attention to him. And all of a sudden he has a breakout year. And that's just Lane Kiffin and what he's done with Jackson Dart. And he's really, really developed some nice quarterbacks. He's developed some incredible offenses. And I think as Tiger fans, we would say that what has been our biggest frustration, what's been our biggest nightmare over the past 15, 20 years. And save 2019 and 2023 where we had Burrow and Daniels and the whole cast of characters on the outside, LSU's offense has been awful for over 15 years. I mean, since the middle of the since the Les Miles days. And so, I just think that it made too much sense. It was all about the timing. It was all about the money. It was all about the dollars. Did the dollars make sense? Not just personally, but professionally. How are you going to invest in your roster? Look, LSU really stuck their nose out here because they, like I said, they had some horrible publicity over the past few weeks. And so if they were going to go all in, they were going to go all in. But, as you know, Lane Kiffin could have easily said no. He could have easily stayed in Oxford, and this would have been another pie in the face for LSU. And so big balls by LSU to go in, identify the guy who they want, say, you're our guy, and then actually go get him, bring him back to Baton Rouge and never let him go again. This is something. This is really special. You've already seen some reactions from a couple recruits, Lamar Brown, Kenny Darby. I think you're going to get a big sentiment from that. I think LSU is going to get a huge kick here, a huge boost in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of recruiting, just really having something to be excited about. And I mean, I know the game yesterday isn't the way we wanted it to go, but I mean, how stout, how strong was that Blake Baker defense, and just seeing the guys fly around, and you just see that, and you pair that, you complement that with a Lane Kiffin offense. And I just, the sky's the limit. I think it sounds like Pete Golding will be staying at Ole Miss. And so you think that the first phone call, it may not even be a phone call. It's just go pop into his office and say, hey, Blake, you want to run this back? Because I don't think you're going to find a better defensive coordinator. And I think that I think they complement each other so well. They're both aggressive. They're both players, coaches. They both put their players in the right positions to make plays and not just run a system. That's the sign of a good coach. And we've had some frustration here at LSU with particularly with Les Miles. But we want to put the players in the perfect position to make plays, build our offense, build our defense around their skill set, not try to fit a round peg into a square hole. And so Blake Baker, he takes the talents of his team and really, he highlights that. And Kiffin's the same way. That would be amazing complementary football. So exciting. And then special teams, there's some coaches out there, maybe Coach Chris. I know, shout out to all my people on Tiger Droppings. We all know and love Coach Chris. He's at Texas right now. So we'll see if we can get his ass back Louisiana. But, look, I mean, here on this Sunday morning going into the afternoon, I mean, you really couldn't ask for much more. LSU has one of, if not the best coach in the country, particularly on offense. I'll give Kirby the defensive nod there. And so LSU got a lot better today. And so it's just going to be an exciting next 24, 36 hours just to see how it all comes together, to see Lane Kiffin coming on to campus. And then obviously with a press conference tomorrow. And then you would assume that he's going to be moving real fast on building his roster and building his staff, and early signing days on Wednesday. And so transfer portal just in a few weeks. And so everything's going to start moving fast. And so this was obviously so important why LSU needed to lock this down as fast as possible. But I mean, absolutely amazing. Lane Kiffin, LSU, it would have been pretty hard to believe somebody telling you that a month ago, 6 weeks ago, but here we are. I mean, couldn't be more exciting. What a great time to be at Boo Crew Media. Sponsored by Rebel Asphalt Services, 225-773-3990. My dear friend Millard, give him a call. They're going to take really good care of you. Big Ole Miss fan, so I know that this probably isn't the best day for him, but I think Ole Miss is going to be in good shape. Kiffin's left it in a very, very good spot. You go and get the right guy, and Ole Miss could be right back in this situation next year. And they've got a lot to play for this year. And so we're going to be keeping an eye on that. And so Lane Kiffin to LSU looking like a 7-year, $90 million contract, one of, if not the highest in college football. NIL just out the water, just being able to recruit and put together the best roster you possibly can. I think one thing that was very interesting that Lane Kiffin said the other day was that he was proud of their ability to build the offense through the portal, but I don't know if it was like a Freudian slip or just he just actually meant it, but it had more meaning to it. But to say that they didn't have a single starter on their offense from the state of Mississippi, I found that fascinating, and I found that very telling. That because you go to a school like LSU, there's not a state that's more attached to their flagship university than LSU. It's the only Power 5 school in the state. And just with the way that LSU's been able to recruit and just their track record over the past 25 years, kids grow up in this state wanting to play at LSU. And so, when you say that you don't have a kid from Mississippi on the entire offense or the entire starting offense, I want to say that at LSU, you're going to have at least 4 to 6, maybe 7 guys from Louisiana. So it's just a different ball game. Saban said, where can you go recruit the best athletes? You can have the best of both worlds. At Ole Miss, you really just had to nail the portal. At LSU, you can still recruit through the high school ranks, develop through the high school ranks, but then supplement through the portal. It gives you everything you need. The Tigers, this university really wants to win. They want to win bad. They're tired of their season being over at the end of October, and I know that we all feel a lot of that. And so I think it's up to Lane. I think he thinks he can come in and take this to the next level. I think Nick Saban had a lot to do with this too, just in the sense that he probably, Lane being his protege and Pete Carroll being his protege, but Saban in particular, probably telling Lane, look, Lane, this is one of, if not the best job in the country. If I could have stayed, I would have stayed. I made a mistake going to the Dolphins. And if I could go back, I would. If I was 50, even if I was 5 years younger, say Saban was 68, 69, he'd be interested in this job. But 74, he was a little bit out the game. He really wanted to get one of his guys in there. And so kind of a full circle moment. But Lane Kiffin, 50 years old. Saban was 48 when he came from Michigan and Michigan State. So, I mean, do we have the golden age ahead of us? Only time will tell. We can speculate. That makes for good video, good content, good clicks. But we're all grateful for you here at Boo Crew Media, Louisiana Boo Crew Media. Obviously, we're going to have more for you throughout the day and through the evening and tomorrow as news warrants. There's going to be so much going on. As news breaks out, we'll break in. Thanks to Justin. Thanks to the team. Lane Kiffin, LSU. Boy, it's going to be a good Sunday. Go Tigers.